So, hello again. Um, Welcome back. This is Conversations with Kevin. So, this is a lot of a different energy than the Ascension TV and the interviews. We were just literally on another call and chatting as we do. And I said, no, this is what we need to talk about. This is the real stuff. So, what I was saying to Kevin is, I have been feeling like so depressed the last few weeks, and it started with a cold actually after New Year. And I said to myself, I'm going to give myself a week, a complete week off. And I just fell, right? And then I kept thinking, no, it's fine. I can power through. Like I have a really big, like masculine, I can power through this stuff. But actually, what was really happening is the parts of me were coming up because, and I was saying to Kevin's been coaching me to help me get kind of organized and get my courage really to start doing breaking out bipolar coaching, because that's what I got section years ago and I felt like I understood it. That's why I wrote the book. But I've been at this block of like, oh my God, I can't do it. I'm scared. And we're both trained coaches, and we know like the minute you start turning towards your goals, the minute your real shit's going to come up. It's so easy to think about it, to say you're going to do a thing and to actually do it. And I remember a few years ago, one of my friends said to me, Kevin, are you ever going to get that book published? And I was like, oh, fuck. She'd really called me out. I was like, geez. And I knew last year it was like, this is the year. And I was actually, one of my mentors, Angela, she channeled for me. Spirit's like, you're not late. You just weren't ready. And the world wasn't ready. There was no point. Like, and we have our own timing for what we think we need to do. And then Spirit steps in, and it's, you might have to purge something in order to be in alignment, like Abraham Hicks teachings, right? Get in alignment, but you can't have what you don't believe you can have. So for me, yeah, the last 2 weeks I've just been like, I want to cancel everything, I want to run away. And really it's not the whole of me, it's my child self. It's like crying out. I've been watching, this is what I was going to say to Kevin, right? I've been watching something called The Good Doctor. So if you watch the last episode, we were talking about autism and ADHD and bipolar and being like star seeds and the energy that we have that's very sensitive beings, and really the new way of beings. And really, in the language that I used to use, I would never use the words autism in terms of myself, because I was like, I'm like just an old soul. I have a multidimensional being inside me, and I know that, and then, when you're interfacing the world, yeah, labels are quite good. But I've been watching The Good Doctor. It's on Netflix. Have you seen it, Kevin?
Yeah, oh my God, you got me into it.
Oh, right.
It's
Yeah.
really addicting. It's wonderful,
Yeah.
wonderful show.
And
Yeah.
it's really helping me
Yeah.
to see, like, I don't think I present quite like the character Sean, but I know in school, I've been in workplaces where I go into a room and I just kind of go, uh, or somebody asks me a question and I'm cogitating deeply inside, and they're kind of like, you can see them going, ugh, and it's like, no, I'm comprehending like my internal world, which is quite vast and
Yeah.
connected, and I see a lot of stuff. So I really get that. Do you understand what I mean
Yeah.
with all the pictures? And because I see it when you're working with me. So when Kevin's been coaching me, he's like, oh, he's doing this, and oh my God, and he's got this idea. And like, if you're ADHD or other or intuitive, I used to just say, oh, intuitive people, you keep up, you can see it, you're almost matching, your inner mind is matching and you keep up. Whereas the neurotypical, I've had people say, oh God, you think too quick, you need to slow down, you do blah 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 blah, everything. They all happy to tell me, and I'm like, why don't I get to tell you you're stupid because you can't keep up? Like, it doesn't work, does it? You're not allowed to say that. So watching this, I've literally watched nearly the whole 5 seasons, right? I have been bawling my eyes out because he's having flashbacks from childhood of him getting bullied and his dad not understanding him and being called stupid. And it's purging. It's all, for me, it's just purging everything, because that's what I was like. I've had it even the other day. I was at my partner's parents, and they're lovely. And I said, well, I resonate with this because I have the autism diagnosis. And his dad was like, you know,
Yeah.
and I was just like, yeah, of course, as long as I'm happy and talking to you and listening to you, great, don't rock the boat. As soon as I bring that label in, my dad was the same. Why are you telling me that? Like, oh, it doesn't just explain like why I interface with the world differently. And, so how has it been for you? Sorry, Kevin, because that's honestly talking to you, Kevin, is like that's what I'm bringing to the table today. I'm feeling like all my feels. I've been crying and just like, yeah. So what's it bringing up for you that
Yes. Thank you for that, and thank you for holding space once again.
oh,
This
that's
is
okay.
a sacred space where there's no judgment, there is safety, and we are who we are, and we give ourselves permission with all the aches, the pains, and the overwhelm, everything that the world is going through right now. It would only make sense. And I love when you use the term interface, because I heard this quote from an autistic, a coach who works with people who suffer from autism and overall people who are neurodivergent. And he's like, listen, the world would be such a boring place without neurodivergent people. There would be no museums, there would be no art, there would be no like no
Mm,
like you think about creative arts inventions, right? Like people like Picasso, people are still trying to understand him, and you see Van Gogh, like he died poor, but now his paintings are, priceless. Why is that? Like the world would be so boring without our
yeah,
perspective of how things are different, and it's very easy to think, okay, there's something wrong with me, whereas it's the society, the greater society that has not been inclusive, not
mm,
only towards genders and people who are on the spectrum of their sexuality, but also to the
mm,
way people process information and digest information. And um, my biggest message is, like, for instance, your numerology, you're in a seven pinnacle, meaning you have permission to step back, and it's totally okay to do that, right? You're meant to focus on a certain energy right now, and it's so powerful if, as an intuitive and neurodivergent person, you incorporate your spirituality, which you've done so beautifully. You've even written about it. Now, whether the world is ready for it or not, like Van Gogh's painting or Mona Lisa, you know,
yeah. Do you
is a
know
different
that
question.
it's funny you say that because I laughed last night because well in this conversation with my partner's parents who I do love, they're lovely, but they're just there's a disconnect really. They don't have the language that we have, and obviously, we're lucky the age of the internet, we're getting almost too much information, but there's a lot, there's a lot of shared topics, isn't there? And I said to her, they said, "Oh, you got anything coming up?" And I'm like, "Well, I've got another healing fair at the end of the month, and basically, I'm working on two projects right now. Energy 101, which is all about different energies and stuff. It's quite simple. It's not as in depth as Who Called You Crazy, and I'm writing a healing manual, and along with different client things and whatever I'm doing. And it's just weird because I was just like, yeah, one day, they'll be finding my computer and being like, oh, she was a genius after I died.
Yeah,
they'll be making all my writing into books and
yeah,
laughing. And they're kind of like, but it's like, it's almost like it's okay to know a genius far away, but if you're the genius in the room, no, 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 you're just fucking weird. Like, and don't be stupid with all your weirdnesses, which is the thing that I have had so many times. I'll say something and I've seen it. I've had the revelations, I've had the knowings, I put the puzzle to, and I say a thing and someone's like, what are you on about? Like, oh, you can't say that. And I'm like, well, sorry, okay, all right, stupid me. So I didn't think about it, or I didn't have some kind of process or knowing. um and it is kind of crazy, and only when you talk to somebody like we were saying last week, having a conversation like this is expansive because both of us
yeah,
are connected to higher realms and a multidimensional self. You can expand out through the conversation rather than having to crush down. Like I used to say, I have a wide bandwidth of reality, and a lot of people, and you can say neurotypicals, have like a smaller bandwidth of normal reality, and they're not interested. They haven't even looked, and I'm like, how can you not wonder? Like, haven't you seen the
yeah.
sky? Like, what? Why wouldn't you ask a question about everything you can see around you? But That's okay as well.
Thank you. Thank you. That's a great question. And why do you think that is? I mean, you as an artist, I know and we've talked about this where, throughout history of humanity, uh, artists have always been marginalized. They've always been on the edge, struggling financially, like trying to express themselves from their heart, right? So they're definitely connected. Like poetry is so divine, right? It's impossible to, for instance, not read Rumi and not understand his connection on spirituality, right? But
Mm.
why do you think, like, throughout the ages, it's been always the artists that have been like outcasts, and most of them most likely being neurodivergent, like having a different
Yeah.
perspective and way of looking at life?
I think it's power and fear. So there's
Mm,
an element in I think we were saying about this about the medical kind of I want to say industry. I shouldn't say that really, but that theme that like if you think of the church and even with the people within the church, so within the church there'll be people that like genuinely have faith, genuinely want to do well for their community, but throughout the ages there will have been, and even like the different sects before, Christianity and before Jesus, there's the essence of it, but there are people that are just like, no, 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 no. If you all have your true wisdom, like Neo waking up, then we can't be in control. So we need to shut down. So it's that thing. I saw a thing today, men who have ideas, they prove it with science and then it's okay to believe it. And all the psychics are like, yeah, we knew it anyway. Why the fuck do we need your permission to believe what we already know? It's so galling. But it's
yeah,
because they have the belief that they are in control. So it's you
yeah,
are we the collective are only
mm,
allowed to believe and speak about what is like the suppressors have allowed, kind of thing. And obviously it's crumbling because of the internet. People's freedom of
yeah,
knowledge is, it's like people can teach online. I can't,
yeah,
in some ways I almost think, and the council clear delete this, I'm not creating this as a reality, but there can be some reality where they just go, you can't teach online anymore.
yeah,
Because if you think of the universities, there's an element of we're the authority, and that always, it's all ego stuff, isn't it? Like we're the best, we're Stanford, or we're
yeah,
so and so. And if we believe it and we say it, then you're allowed. But if not, we can't have, it's like intellectual wankery, like, oh,
yeah,
I can say this theory, but you can't.
yeah,
It's and it's the same in the spiritual stuff, I think. And people who can't are jealous. And I know I can say, I have to own the mirror. If somebody's already doing something that I haven't done, then a part of me can feel that, I'm missing out. And if you really act on that, you're going to be wanting to pull them back down because you're not, so I guess to a degree, I want to
yeah.
say we all need to take that responsibility for the part of that in us, because that's what pushed people down, maybe. I don't know.
You you read my mind because my next question was the connection between the male patriarchy and what humanity has experienced, including neurodivergence. Because I saw a video that shocked me last night. It was about the Black Plague that killed more than half of the European population. And it was caused because the Pope at the time believed, women especially are performing witchcraft, and women, majority of them own cats. So there was a message sent throughout Europe to prosecute women, burn them at stake for witchcraft, and they were mostly healers, right? Or
Yeah.
they may have like told you to take some natural remedy for your cough, but getting rid of the cats, prosecuting and burning up to 2 million women, burning them alive, is what caused the Black Plague, because the cats were not there anymore to control the rat population, and the mice and rat spread the plague. And that's why in Europe they said this is a punishment from God. This
Yeah.
is why a lot of times I don't feel like I'm good in my faith in terms of Judeo-Christian values, because the suppression of the feminine energies, that are divine has been so prevalent, starting with Judaism in a way, as a critic of, you know,
Yeah.
as someone who was born Jewish, and was practicing and was Orthodox, I always felt like, why are women in this monotheistic religion are marginalized? And you see the impact of it, right? Not just with the Black Plague, but ongoing struggles. And I was wondering, as a female, how do you, or do you see a connection between the male patriarchy and marginalization of arts,
Oh,
music?
absolutely. But
Yeah,
again, I do want to say, even though I've seen it, no, I have, I almost want to say I have seen it really clearly where I've been chatting to men and if they're, yeah, we can all do it. I just want to say that. So, but just a point that comes to mind, a memory that comes to mind is I'll be sharing from my heart, and a man will quote something at me, and I'm like, yeah, but what do you think? What is it? Why is it that your book that you've read, which is usually by a man, is has got more clout in this moment than what I'm saying from my heart? And to me, that sums it up. It's like, no, no, the person in front of us doesn't get to be a prophet, as in like we're all prophets. I'm not putting
yeah.
me in that, we all have the capacity to receive in the moment revelation.
Mhm.
um, but it's easier for some people to be like, no, 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 you don't know shit. I've read this book, and therefore there's an authority. And actually, I laughed with this on The Good Doctor. At one of the scenes, there's a doctor with a patient. Something goes wrong, and they're like, "Help! Help!" And I thought it's funny because there's always like a chain of command. It's like, no, no, I don't have, I'm not sovereign enough. So I need to ask the next person, and they'll ask the next person. And there's a hierarchy. So even though we can kind of blame there being a hierarchy, it's almost like indoctrinated into us that somebody else always has a higher authority. So if we don't acknowledge our own authority, and we like externalize that, I think people are scared of those who have insight. So I would say it's very
Yeah.
easy for men. If you're like, I've had it because I'm 6'1", men that are shorter than me, you want to see them giving it all that. But men that are just really cool, they don't even meant they have nothing to say about my height, because if they're insecure, that's what leads them to then be, oh, so it's
Yeah.
unfortunately it's proportional to the ego of whoever is doing that perpetration. And you're
Hmm.
not going to be able to see women as powerful if you don't feel powerful yourself. And maybe you were
Yeah.
bullied, so it then and it knocks on. Like, I was horrible to my brother because my mum kind of bullied me. Like, it is that
Mhm.
simple. And you're not healing, you've got this hurt
Yeah.
in you, and it comes out. And I guess
Mhm.
the sex divide, it's a very clear one, isn't it? So I think I'm kind of not surprised. I'm sure I've been a
Mhm.
man and a perpetrator, so what can you say, really? It's just we all
Yeah.
have to take that like moment to moment responsibility, because it's all too easy to say it's only this group of people or that, when actually we can all have the capacity to have those ego traits, or the wounded traits, in a way. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
But
I
what a
believe, yeah,
go on,
go
sorry.
ahead. I believe we're dealing with ancestral trauma. I remember when I was a practicing Orthodox Jew, I went on a date with a young woman who believed God is punishing her because she has her period once a month, and this is God's way of punishing woman for the original sin. And I'm like, well, ma'am, you're an educated pharmacist. You can't tell me that in the modern age you believe God is punishing you, right? It's a natural process. It's beautiful. It's been, uh, suppressed due to the male patriarchy, so that people think it's something dirty or unclean. And in Judaism, if for instance it's that time of the month, you're not supposed to interact with your own wife. You cannot even pass your child to your partner or share
Sure,
a bed or even a couch. It's
sure.
one of the principles of Orthodox Judaism. And I share this for learning purposes because, um, you know, we as a society, a modern society, right, if cannot be inclusive with women, especially when it comes to leadership roles,
Mm,
right? Why is that Bill Gates is, the number one guy when it comes to technology, right? Where is women's share in leadership? When
mm,
is where and unfortunately, I feel like the level of ancestral trauma is so bad. A lot of my female friends who are highly intuitive are scared to speak up. So
mm,
I admire you for your courage, for Ascension TV, for the content and the books you're reading, because you're modeling for globally for thousands of other creators, neurodivergent leaders who want to speak up and claim what's theirs. It's just that it hurts me when like a female like doesn't even believe like that, and the fear and the shame and the guilt that
mm,
she's been brainwashed with is so much
mm.
that she really feels like she's being punished for something that's completely
Yeah,
natural and
yeah.
any other even being in the animal kingdom experiences. But
Mm. No, I get you, and I think, like we were saying at the beginning of the this session, the energies are so strong right now that a lot of the traumas are coming up, and it's
Mhm.
like we're I see that we're all growing so quickly. One person does a thing and it's almost normalized, so then everyone's like, oh, I can, so we only need, because if I'm not saying a lot more on say Ascension TV than say, I don't know, any other bloggers, right? I've seen so many spiritual bloggers, and they're also really connecting with their ETs. Like I watched a reel today of a guy talking that he'd met the Elohim. They appeared in his room, and I've had it when like an angel was just literally been in front of me. I saw Archangel Metatron in my ecstatic dance training and things. But I still find myself narrowing it down because of the
Mhm.
PTSD of
Mhm.
being sectioned. That's like the last
Mhm.
thing. But then there's little comments, people, and that's why help watching The Good Doctor has really helped starting to get some of that really deeper trauma stuff in me just from this live
Yeah.
around me saying stuff, because I've had people go, oh, you're so cute, what do you think you're, Jesus, or who do you think you are, or reacting really strongly to something that I share in innocence. But again, like I have to admit my own shadows, that I get triggered by other people. Like, it's not fair, or I'm jealous because they can do that, rather than it's like, okay, this is the shadow work, isn't it? The integration. So you're absolutely right. I think the amount of PTSD that and trauma that we're carrying is just unreal, but it is popping because we're
Yeah.
growing. Like we were saying, it's like that's what I love in coaching. As in the first chapter, I talk about, the growth cycles, because we have a surge of energy coming in, and then we expand, and then it brings, oh my God, no, 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 the part of you that goes, no, I can't do it. So, and I've seen that every time I think, right, I'm going to do this is my next one. So my next
Yeah.
project will be like teaching angelic vortex healing. And I could tell you about it right now. I can say,
Yeah, I would love to hear about that.
it's literally, so this is a good one, actually. This will be one that is for everyone. You literally call in a soul alignment vortex. So literally you just say, hi, self guides and angels, thank you for holding me in this space. Thank you, angels, for my soul alignment vortex. And it will literally just bring in the energy of your soul. Okay. And because we all have a pure frequency that we've got, like, that contains our blueprint or is coming from our blueprint. When we heal, we start aligning to that. So a lot of us, we're coming online with light languages and soul memories and soul gifts, but all the parts of us that have been holding in because of trauma, because of social norming, whatever societal familial beliefs, they are breaking. And that, if you had a trauma that made you always be quiet, and you're being called to do like Ascension TV, you're going to have to heal that shit before you can do it. There's the gap, isn't it, to come into
Yeah.
alignment. And, I think I was saying last week, it feels like I would get an idea and it's got to trickle through and it takes a long time to come out. But bit by bit, it becomes quicker. You know, you think of something, you
Yeah,
follow the intuition, and that takes practice. You know, and I beat
yeah,
myself up because I'm not doing all the things I've ever thought about. But it's like, well, you know, there's no point in us comparing ourselves. It's
yeah.
just take the next step, take, you know, integrate the next feeling,
Thank
whatever
you.
it is. But so yeah, it's
Thank you.
a
And
big subject.
speaking of bridging the gap, which I was thinking of asking you to draw from Judeo-Christian wisdom, because I respect every faith and religion. It's believed that in Judaism specifically, that murder is not only the physical act of murdering somebody. You could murder somebody by attacking them, like not physically, but emotionally, and
Actually,
causing shame and embarrassment. See, to
ah,
me, that old notion of burning a woman at the stake because she was connected to the divine goddess, right? Something that had to be erased from history. Um, Sectioning you is no different than committing that crime and murder. It's just a modern way of doing it.
yeah.
So when you, as an empowered spiritual leader, mention, right, that, hey, that taking my freedom, not listening to me, right, was in a way a form of murder, like, sabotaging my character, my growth, my development, like honoring my values as a human being. Once we recognize that, right, and don't think of it as something that's, oh, it was just like a weakness in the medical system. No, if we look with our third eye, the spiritual eye, you see that that act of sectioning you instead of listening to you was just like burning you at stake. That's
Yeah.
why there is fear to be authentic. I have fears around being authentic because I'm like, well, I'm a business professional and now I'm in a podcast speaking about being neurodivergent and angels, but reality is a stranger than fiction. And
Mm,
neurodivergence see it like that. So
mm,
bridging that gap, right, to me, it starts by acknowledging the injustices that have been happening, but
mhm.
doing something about it also. And sorry, I'm gonna lower the hand. And my question is, like, in bridging that gap, other than doing the podcast, writing your books that are wonderful and such an amazing resource for people who've been through the same journey, what are some of your other uh, sort of visions around leading the path and opening channels so that conversations like this can take place? There's sacredness and space and safety for people to come and say, hey, me too. I've also suffered from,
I get you.
being misdiagnosed. Yeah.
You know what I almost feel to say? Like when I was going through the experience, certainly the second time, the first time was shock, and I kind of it was really challenging. But I met some nice people in there, other patients. But the second time, I really felt like, oh, I meant to experience this for some sole reason. And I was calling
Yeah.
in spirit, I was praying, I played like piano in the church to like this sea of souls. And, you know, it was very lucid. It was like I was just in a very altered state. And so a lot of it for me, I was okay when I was in that, like when I'm speaking to you, because I can be all of me. There was no contraction. But what happens is, as soon as I then came back out of there and I was on my own, I had family around me, I'd kind of had, so it's weird because it's the multi-layered self in the teachings that I teach over the winter, the moon key. We work different archetypes, and we have like the eagle condor view, then we have the hummingbird, and we have the jaguar, and we have snake. And I through the to teach through teaching this, I've come to realize that a lot of my life I've been in the eagle view and I've stuck in eagle view. And when I'm
Mhm.
there, it's really comfy because I'm in that. Oh, I can just see it. It's like in no time. You just see the whole of, like, you can almost see the whole of human history, and you're just not
Mhm.
bothered, like wars coming and going. You can just zoom right out. But what's happened for me is, and this is where I'm coming to, I suppose, is the integration to be in your body and embodied and really acknowledging is you're almost coming down the dimensions, and that's where the memories are, the emotions, and that trapped kind of like a hologram of a contorted energy. So, if some like them locking me up, even though I could cognitize like it within my own, like soul journey and be like, okay, maybe I'm
Mm.
healing my witch wound, maybe I'm doing something else here for other people, maybe I'm learning because I want to write, one of the other books I've got planned for this year or another year is about the spiritual dimensions of all of those mental illnesses, and I'm sure people have written the same about it, but I would like to put my 10 pence in the mix. I've had to still come down and let go of, there was parts in my body that was like, fuck off, I want to run away. Oh no, I can't. And
Yeah.
I'm having to, like, you have, somebody, it's like somebody just going, no, 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 no. And, and
Mhm.
I wrote in the book, I think, you holding me down and forcing me to have medication, it's like rape. You may as well have been raping me until you go,
Mhm.
okay, I can go, and now I can go home now. Thank you very fucking much. So you're right.
Yeah.
It was like everything and everyone going, absolutely not, none of that is allowed, you've got to do this, you've got to, and that is, to me, is where, that's where like the PTSD is, because it's like a part of your energy
Yeah.
is like, no, you've got to do this, and then you let go. And again, if I'm around, like, I want to say my parents, my partner's parents, because they're of that generation, they're not, don't have lived experience in this way. It's the same thing, and I'm so used to kind of squashing myself. So what I want to say is be around the people that light you up, that free you.
Yeah.
Have those conversations. Talk to a tree if you need to, if you don't know
Yeah.
anybody. That join
Yeah.
a bloody spiritual circle. Go to a spiritualist church.
Yeah.
Read a book. Whatever it is that is expanding you rather than contracting you. And it doesn't mean. I almost want to say as well. I've spent a long time like absolutely almost like cutting people out, like, no, because I some level of me knew it's like, no, I have to do this, I'm not going to do it. But I also know that because I've done that a lot, I've kind of become very reclusive, and that, like, only
Yeah.
being like that is not helpful. Like, I have to, my practice is, can I be that and know that I interface here while
Yeah.
staying here, kind of thing. So
Yeah.
actually, that is where that soul alignment vortex is a very good
Mhm.
one to just keep bringing that in and noticing. Actually, you can see, I don't know if you see auras, but if you feel or sense your own one, Kevin,
Mhm.
notice if you've done this, and then hang on, consciously, like, take the energy back out.
Mhm.
And that is just a practice, because so much of our early life will be people going, oh, you can't do that, you can't say that, oh, you're so
Yeah.
silly, you're a kid, and then blah, blah, blah,
Mhm.
blah. So it's just this crunching, and that's what we're going to
Yeah.
do. So anyone on the call, if you're watching,
Yeah.
just notice if you've got a contraction and just simply take it out. But I think connection is the thing. Like, I'm totally
Yeah.
different when I'm with you, because you're reflecting that more expanded state for me.
Mhm.
That helps me. And sometimes I get stuck in a contracted state. Do you know what I mean? So this is where
Yeah.
community, connection, reading, writing, sharing, being creative, flowing, but also being present. Our coaching teacher, that's what he'll, you got to feel your shit. There is no way over. You got to feel it. And then
Yeah.
that unlocks all of that
See.
condensed trauma stuff. Gosh, I'm rambling. Sorry. Thanks, Kevin.
No, not at all. I mean, what a powerful message. And I like, I'm just gonna, I'm a good listener as a mediator, so I'm just gonna summarize what you mentioned.
Yeah.
Like you being section and thinking of it as something that's needed in your journey and surrendering to the process. That's
Mm,
such a powerful message.
mm,
That's why, the Shakti energy, right? The
mm,
the 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 life, the energy that's responsible for diversity, nature, and creativity, right, is so different that even now we may classify it as a neurodivergence, as if it's a condition, right? you've had to do what you've had to do, including being in isolation, which I'm doing currently, right? In order to protect yourself. And that definitely even resonates with me, and I'm sure with many more listeners, because unless we find channels, healthy channels to have conversations like this and saying, hey, it's not just the way you see colors, right? Like every being, every animal may perceive nature differently. And it's
Mm,
all part of our internal process. How
mm,
dare you say your interface with this reality is better or not, right? A lot of times it's, because we value, especially in capitalism, big corporations and money. So even if your personality type is not a certain way, the big British corporations or American corporations or anywhere in the world, like they don't see you as an asset, they see you as an expense,
mm,
right? I mean, this came up with Apple. I mean, there's many case studies around creativity and people in creative departments being looked at as an expense. But wait a minute, Apple would be nothing if they don't come up with the next generation. Why
yeah,
do you think that creative, that R&D
yeah,
department, which is probably full of neurodivergent scientists,
sure.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's interesting you liken the Shakti energy to like the neurodivergent because yeah, before like a few years ago, it never occurred to me to think of myself as autistic. I don't like labels. I was
Yeah.
like, I'm a soul. I know I connect to creativity. Like I know I'm highly intuitive. I know I'm creative, although I never used to think I was because I was more like, well, I'm a musician, but then I do sew and I have painted and I've built things out of wood and garden. Yeah, I'm really creative, right? And
Mm,
obviously that's as a coach you realize
mm,
once you realize you can create and consciously choose one aspect of your life, you can apply it to all of your life. And this is what I feel like we're all coming to be, to realize the conscious co-creators of our shared reality is what we're stepping into.
mhm,
And like we're creating on a subconscious level if we're not on a conscious level, right? Because that, because the energy is the whole energy that we're doing. But it's ridiculous that if you're alternative, independent, you do not like to be talked to like shit, you do not succumb, you have to
yeah.
have a label. And then it's like it's a way of the normal people who basically are happy to conform going, oh bless you. What it just it's almost ironic actually the way
Yeah.
you describe that, because you're right. I would say, like, I talk to you, if I had to just say, oh, what would you say about Kevin? Right, I've just spoken to you. I would say he's a man who accesses his feminine energy. End of. Right?
Yeah.
You're sensitive, you have creativity, you listen and you talk. That to me is just a balanced soul. And years
Yeah.
ago, I didn't see a difference, neurodiversity. It was just there are people that were definitely fucking easier to talk to because you could
Yeah.
go through a loop together and, think
Yeah.
of all this stuff and it was really expansive. Or there was the people that made you just go, you know,
Yeah.
you know what I
Thank
mean?
you. Yeah.
And could we even say it like this, right? Within what's just coming to me is that souls, I would say, like souls who know each other as well can spark immediate like expansion. And other
Mhm.
souls, there's like a soul rub, like there, because there's karma, my dad, one of them,
Yeah.
or there's just like no connection because you're just, you're grains of sand on the beach, but you're not going to have an interaction. You've never lived together.
Yeah.
You don't need to have a connection. It doesn't mean you ignore people. You might be polite, but there's going to never be a cohesive, and like, it's a bit like the plus plus negative plus, sort of
Yeah.
different energies have a different reaction. So I'd love to see the brain scans of how different people are lighting up in different scenarios. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because if you
Yeah.
put me in some scenario, it's that thing, I'll just shut down and I'm like,
Yeah.
because this tiniest trigger will trigger something in me. And again, watching Good Doctor is helping me
Yeah.
bring up the stuff about bullying, because I'd never would have said that I was bullied. And then when you think about it, it's like,
Yes.
no, I was taking the piss off relentlessly. I had
Yes.
so many names given to me because of my height, because of my legs, because, you know, and it was just constant. But that's like, I don't know what other people's experiences are like, whether that was actually just normal for that era, whether that's just kids, or whether that was specific to me because I always stuck out. You know, and is it autism or is it trauma? Because I always just thought, no, I have, when I came across PTSD as a label, I was like, fuck yeah, man, all of that. I have all of those
Yeah.
symptoms, you know, and then it's like,
Yeah.
but
Oh
is it
my gosh.
autistic? And it, you know, I think there's a lot of crossovers with, because
Yes.
there's a school of thought that talk about trauma and all of that, and then there's a school of thought that like, oh, I'm autistic, and it's like, is it one or the other? I don't think it's
Yeah.
that clear. Personally, I don't think it's that clear,
Yeah.
to be honest. But so I was another ramble, but this is the point, isn't it? You're a
Mm.
listener, so you expand me into having like creative thought processes, and it's interesting, you know. But you help me join the dots, your presence.
Absolutely. My gosh. And the irony of all this is that, you know, people like hear the term like neurodivergent because you could be masking if you're high IQ, right? Like I was diagnosed just recently, right? And I learned that people on the spectrum have all sorts of like chronic issues, chronic pain. And the funny part that was making me laugh is how like there's this notion that if you're on the spectrum, you're bad at communicating, whereas we're just communicating differently. And it could just be a well-balanced soul between the
Yeah.
masculine and the feminine. And how dare we sexualize the feminine energies of Mother Earth and this realm, and then say, right, oh, there's something wrong with you if you're you know, this way or that way, or you don't fit in the corporate culture because, you know, like this or that. It's almost as if we ruin everything with sexuality nowadays. And that's how women have been marginalized. But what if communication has different modalities? Like music is a form of communication, art is
Yeah. Yeah.
like trees.
Dance.
Like you know, I wrote a book last year about my relationship with trees, which most likely is going to be a children's book at this point, because when I talk to adults about my connection to trees and how wise they are and how sentient they are, right? They're just on a different vibrational level. um you know, adults are like, what type of meds are you on? I'm like, I'm not on any meds,
Oh,
right? You
mate.
can
Yeah.
try for your own, but
Yeah.
when you know, it's as if you don't even need the brain scan, right?
Yeah. It's so sad, isn't it? It is. It's like medicalizing. Like, think of indigenous people. And for
Yeah.
me, again, growing up, because I didn't like being white, I was so ashamed of British people and what they'd done. I just have felt the pain of the Native Americans in India, you know,
Mhm.
sorry, in America. And obviously, you know, the Indians, because like the British went there as
Yeah.
well. But I then saw myself as a Native American getting killed and the tribe getting killed, and I wasn't killed by the white people, but the tribe was, and God, I've had to do so much work with that part of me to kind of bring myself back, because that's why I believe I incarnated here, because I had to really forgive the white people and forgive myself living in a white skin.
Hmm.
um so like as a kid, it's like I had a memory of those other times when we were closer to nature. And again, that's not a fucking neurodiverse bloody disability, whatever the hell. It's because I intuited my soul heart memories. I would cry
Hmm.
watching like the news and the rainforest, just like, what the heck? Like, actually, what? But do you know what's just popped in my head? I read a book a few years ago, and I can't remember who it was by. I could probably find it. I took pictures of it, and he basically, it was about this, the in between, like the life in between, so like the afterlife and what happened there. And the guy had regressed like hundreds and hundreds of people, and it was all shared stories, a bit like Dolores Cannon, you know, sharing all of
Hmm.
her knowledge. And he said, you know, the souls on earth, we're all, if we take school to be, earth to be a school, and you just think the ones of us who are neurodiverse are probably like older souls, not everyone, but
Mhm.
like that, like I certainly resonate with being an older soul. So even though you can look at the atrocities, it's like I have to stand and go, I know I've raped and pillaged and murdered, and I know I've been like a sultan that raped one of my male guards, right? And la 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 la. You know, I've been a slave owner. You know, so I have those shadow elements. So it's easy to look and go, oh, Trump this and blah, blah, blah. But actually, can you just sit and just think, say maybe they're like a school level 7, right? And they just didn't learn that thing of like not being a twat, you know. But what do you know, if you bring it back, like what am I learning? Think this course in
Yeah,
Course in Miracles, right? You have
yeah,
your own curriculum. Fucking get in your lane. What is your thing? And that has been really humbling for me. That book has really just knocked all the high horses
yeah,
away, because it's like I can't say nothing. I don't think there's anything on earth that in the shadow that I can't see that I have done at one time or other.
yeah,
So then you just let it go, live and let live,
yeah,
because you cannot force another to look a different way. It's very humbling for me to take on that label of autism and say, in this current shared white reality, this is
mm,
how white people see alternative thinking. Okay, if
yeah,
I was in indigenous culture, I'd be training with the shaman. I'm not. All right, whatever. It doesn't
yeah,
matter. Like getting sectioned, I can just like let go of any, you know, the imprinting. This is trauma release, right? Letting go,
yeah,
softening. It doesn't mean it's not hard if you hit on an edge, you know, you just have to soften through it, acknowledge it, talk to the soul part if that's what you need to do, whatever it is, if it's EFT or the peace process, which we know all about,
yeah.
it's to me, that's one of the biggest things that we all have to do. And when I remember that,
Mhm.
it simplifies everything. Obviously,
Yeah,
we're a collective field, but you can only take your slice in the pie. And when I bring myself back to that, it's humbling, a lot easier, softer, you know. And then there's no race anymore, and no, I need to heal. Because as a kid I was like, oh my god, I need to stop doing that, and I need to stop you doing that, and I need to stop you doing that. It was just like, fuck, like every part, everywhere I looked, it was like, this is just hell. And it's like, okay, no, that's just somebody learning something.
yes,
That's just
yes,
somebody learning that. I'll just go over here. I'm just going
yeah,
to go over here. But I'm still
yes,
in the point of going, it is really okay to go over here and just live my life and just let the people who want to live in chaos live in chaos. Okay.
yeah,
I feel like I'm still a bit in that. It's okay to just be happy and be over here.
yeah,
And then, mate, you want to help somebody, but you don't have to be in it, and you don't have to be suffering because all the other people are choosing that over here, you know? So,
yeah.
yeah.
Wow, I want to take a minute to appreciate what you just shared. If anybody missed it, like I mean, you spoke about the pinnacle of spirituality, which is the integration of the shadow. In Hindu cosmology, Hinduism being a monotheistic religion, actually, if you truly studied it, and the divine has many forms. One form is Kali Bhairava, which is a very fierce form of Shiva, right? The destroyer. And what you mentioned uh, about like you recognizing that you are capable of murder, and in other lives you committed crimes against humanity, and even woman maybe, right? And that could be the point of your suffering. That's the pinnacle of spirituality in Hindu cosmology, and according to many spiritual teachers, that you also recognize within yourself that you're not just the man, but you also have the feminine, and vice versa, but that we are also very much capable of committing crimes like Hitler, like most murderers. It's just that we choose differently, but you can't be spiritual without recognizing that part of yourself. So thank you for that amazing recognition. And good for you to rise above being sectioned, right? recognizing that, learning from that, integrating that, and talking about that. Because I myself, my struggle with authenticity, even with my therapist, I'll be honest with you, is there's that innate fear of being labeled, right, as bipolar or this or that and be medicated. And how sad that so many adults with such high rates of autism are being diagnosed late because they're masking, because they're trying to fit on labels and
Yeah.
roles that society created.
Oh, I so hear you, Kevin. And you know, it's I'm sorry to hear about the feeling with the therapist or whatever is bringing up there. And I've got to say, like for years, there was no way I was talking to anyone as well. And I through preparing myself and editing the book and getting ready to publish it, I realized, oh, I've been carrying a lot of stuff, because I've been living in my ego view and being like, yeah, yeah, it's okay. I can see the spiritual ramification, blah, blah. But I wasn't letting it out of my body. So every time I would sit at the computer to do a bit, I would get brain fog and I'd start, having jitters because it was like I was standing in my truth again, and standing in my
Mm.
truth and back then was not allowed. Nothing I said at that time it was just like, you're just talking shit. That's it. No
Yeah,
one wants to know. So I kept having to just keep feeling. It really occurred to me, I had never really said to anyone. I little bits will come out and people are like, oh, surely you should have let that go, not really understanding trauma and things, and you used to think, oh yeah, sorry, stupid me for talking about the thing that I haven't processed yet, because I can't fucking trust a therapist, because as far as my subconscious is saying, adults, old people, and people in authority are fucking dangerous because they all tell me I'm crazy and get triggered by me. And I
yeah,
have tried on loads of different people. Some people, push me into, you're so amazing. Let's just get you in your business. Well, actually, I know I'm clever. I don't need you to tell me that. I need help with the healing. No, I can't heal that with you, and I have actually found a lady. I've gone through my, the normal route in Britain. You can get 10 therapy sessions with through the NHS, as if that's enough, right? But like it's really helped me relearn, actually, because she is trauma informed. She understands a wide bandwidth of reality,
yeah,
which was, it was obviously, what is it, when we're ready the universe responds. I was ready to go, okay, I do need to talk to somebody. It's because I had the miscarriage last year and I thought, no, I'm going to see if I can get some counseling for it. Met this woman, I was like, shit, I can actually talk to you as all of me. I don't have to hide the past lives, the multiple parts. She gets parts work. Oh, and I tell you, so if you really can't be true, and I guess I'm talking to you, Kevin, but I'm talking to somebody else that might be listening. If you can't be 100% you with a therapist, fuck him off, because there'll be something in you that is telling you this isn't safe. It will be
yeah,
subconscious, but that you'll know if they can hold you. And my clients are like, oh, thanks. Because it's like, yeah, I've taken drugs. I've had loads of sex. I've kissed
yeah,
girls and boys. Like, I've fucked up in terms of like normal society. But I've also lived, and you know what I mean? You can put the
yeah,
stuff on the table. I've also, explored my mind and some. So,
yeah.
I feel for you. Sorry, Kevin, about that, because I know the
No,
feeling of thinking no one is safe. No one is safe.
ab
That's the feeling.
absolutely. And that safety is something that keeps coming up in my conversation, not only with you, but others also, because
Mm,
and I'll use this as an example. I was watching a documentary about ayahuasca, right? How did the shamans of the Amazon knew, like, that if they mix the root of this plant with this thing, they can sustain this type of like sort of DMT release in a sustained period of time. And the trees also taught them songs so that you could go through this journey. And it's as if without the spirituality, humanity is not going to rise above this survival mode, right? And a lot of people are so asleep, they're not recognizing that. So it's easy to put a label on you and medicate you and sedate you and say, you know, go on benefits or go like, do this thing and you're just disabled or this or that, right?
mm, mm,
Whereas in reality, without the spirituality, right, which unfortunately does not has lots is a space in religions too, in my opinion. At least that's been my personal experience, right? Without that divine connection that women have a natural gift for, right? We see this, I saw this last year when I read 16 books of Carlos Castaneda's lineage. He was an anthropologist at UCLA in the 60s. He did a lot of research, and a lot of his students who were also anthropologists published books about the ancient shamans of Mexico, and they were just connected. The shamans, they were the healers. See, it's not profitable if somebody comes to you and learns from you how to be balanced so they're not on antidepressants. It's just not profitable. So why not label the shamans, the women, and sexualize things and get what we want, right? But not truly the essence of what they embody, which is both forms of masculine and feminine, and their divine connection. And this
Sure.
goes for both men and women. And I think we live in amazing times, Caroline. I mean, how do you see, as a psychic, the next, 10, 15 years, maybe even 5 years? Do you see things shifting?
Yeah, I mean it's like the bottom's dropping out is what I want to say of everything. Like people are seeing beyond. Like think of even in the pandemic, like I was watching people go, "Oh, the government, maybe they don't have our best on." You're like, "Really? Have you only just thought? Have you like as a kid I was like, I don't trust them. I don't trust them.
Yeah,
But of course, the balance of it is that I've had to learn is that actually just because say somebody is a doctor or a psychiatrist, it actually doesn't mean they don't have a good intention. It just means they haven't had true insight of themselves to look beyond the Western. So like, my bias has been anybody in the government, anybody in banking, they're all really bad. And it's like, actually, it's not actually true. It's just that there's a lot of smog, shall we say, in
yeah,
those themes. I'm just seeing it like a black smog that
yeah.
is. I'm getting a power to get that. I want to see it. It's almost like actually, am I working him in? Am I because it's there's and I know I have again. I can see the shadow in myself. There's this ego, like oh, if I'm a psychiatrist, then I know something. Sorry,
Yeah.
psychiatrist, if you're watching it. But I know as a person growing up, because I was called clever so many times, I was looking for one of those careers that would suit my intelligent 5 A levels, clever, because that's how we grow up. It's that Western thing. It's about kudos. We also want to have worth. We want to have purpose. We want to feel needed. So it's not as black and white, and I know hands up. Oh my God, I feel so, I've been
Thank
like,
you.
all of you are just idiots, all of you and idiots. So I've had this massive chip on my shoulder because of the wounded, because of the feeling of, and it's like when you think of it, like shit, you're not actually being horrible. You literally just don't know, and that is a
Yeah.
different thing. Like I didn't know people didn't have the internal you know it can be chaotic. I wake up in the morning and I feel like I'm tuned into like 20 different homes. It's like I'm sitting in a home and that people are and I think because I know we all soul travel. I believe apparently I'm a soul guide in the other realms, so I will go around doing stuff. And obviously if I wake up with a jolt, which is why you don't want to interrupt somebody in their trance state, they're in another realm, your soul is kind of off doing, and I have to shut down. But like to me it didn't occur to me that people just actually don't have that. Like so as in the good doctor, they're showing him do this. I'm like, yeah, well, don't
Yeah.
doesn't wouldn't everyone do that? Oh fuck, what, people actually
Yeah.
can't do that,
Yeah.
I had no idea. So I guess as much as we want to be understood, it's about us. If we are the elder ones or we have some skills that other people don't, we also then have to show the compassion back to go,
Yeah.
fuck, but you're probably really good at building something because it's really practical, or you're really good at just filling in this, oh no, whatever it is. So yeah, I'm seeing this image of of the lemniscate, right? The infinity. So you're asking me about what I see. It's like I had a vision years ago of columns crashing, and I was like, what does that mean? And it's the divisions between everybody. So, like, really, at some point, it'll be like, actually, yes, we don't like it when people say, oh, everyone's on a spectrum. And you're like, yeah, clearly you haven't had as much interfacing problems because you do have a job, a partner, kids, and a lot of money, and you've kept a job for years. Sorry, no, you don't have the same, you don't have those problems. But they will still have problems that they've been masking, so
Yeah,
bit by bit it's like um I can see like bombs going off, but not as in actual bombs. Of course that may be the case, but of things coming from the underneath the surface and just coming up, which is why there's like, oh, all the stuff around trans, oh, the stuff about LGBT, all the stuff about this, all the stuff about this, because it's like everyone just shaking it out, and we still have to do our stuff about it.
yeah,
Like sometimes I watch gay men kissing, guys kissing, and sometimes I'm like, oh, and then sometimes I'm like, oh, I can't quite get my head around it because I'm not
yeah,
living in a gay body's man, but I have
yeah,
also been with a girl and felt my male energy coming through when I'm kissing her.
yeah.
So I've had a very lived
You
experience where my
yeah,
my female body kind of dissolved and I was in my male. So I can see it, but there are other parts of me that are like, oh, I don't quite get that. Right. We just have to
yeah.
all face our shit. And as we do that, the external world shifts in like reciprocity to that is what I see.
Absolutely,
And
absolutely.
that's
Wow.
we just got to keep doing that.
Wow. Another powerful spiritual message that I'd like to take a second to acknowledge here. And you do it again with such ease and grace, right? That you may not notice it and the audience may just hear it and miss it. That's why I want to take a minute to acknowledge what you mentioned about rising above duality. As long as we're going around saying you're in a female body, I'm in a male body, right? Or is my sexuality is like this, your sexuality is like that, we're not going to be able to see that they're both part of the same thing, not taking sides with any political parties, not
Mhm,
taking sides. There's nothing innately good or bad because we're both capable of amazing good as well as evil. And
mhm,
recognizing that in ourselves is what enables us to rise above to the Trinity, right? To the balance, triangle being the strongest form in reality, in nature, like molecules of a diamond, because without the Trinity, which was omitted from the Old Testament, in my opinion, right? And post Christianity, with the idea of Jesus, it came back, sort of, but sometimes distorted. Like you have to look at specific examples in certain versions of the Bible that I'm not going to get into. And I'm not criticizing, I'm just a student of theology. And to me, when I look at where this disconnect between the spirituality and nature happens, right? A lot of it is manipulation and sort of saying one way of thinking is correct versus the other. Like, and I'll give you a personal example. I used to do this thing since I was a child where I would count stairs. I would count everything. Like I do that. I'm highly analytical. Like I actually is one of my greatest areas of strength. I got an MBA. I'm an analyst. I got paid ton
yeah.
of money to just because I see patterns with numbers. But I
Oh.
did not know until only 2 weeks ago that other people are not constantly counting stairs and
Yeah.
things, right? Right. And my younger brother said, hey, Kevin, why do you do that? I'm like, how else you gonna know when you're gonna reach the end of the stairway? And he's like, why do you need to know that? I'm like, doesn't everybody, right? Like,
Wow.
and I'm like, I know how many steps we had in every home we lived at growing up, and
Wow.
and they're like, oh, that's weird. That's often the response, but it's not weird, it's natural in a way. I'm a visual thinker, right? I'm using a different part of my brain. Now if you want to put me on Adderall, I'm gonna have an issue with that, because I have to learn to live in harmony and with balance. I just need nature. I'm sensitive to, stimuli. and I need a certain environment that's conducive for my gifts, right? I don't go and to tell you as a CFO of a big corporation, right? There's something wrong with you because you're working 12, 14 hours.
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
me, that's not life. Life is about uh, nature and coexistence in harmony. And that is a message that sometimes, like you say, with such ease and grace, like something that's really spiritually advanced. And I feel like your book, right? I see evidence of this every day. Also, with my other friend who's published a book on balance, Isaac, whom hopefully you
Yeah.
will meet, because a lot of his topics, or my friend Melanie Hudson, who's written about women and empowering women,
Mm.
such advanced spiritual concepts that goes over people's head. So thank you for bringing up masking. Thank you for bringing up like a lot of this spiritual concept, but please do recognize you may be ahead of your time.
I have had people tell me, are you from another time? Old
Yeah.
friend of mine before, and I used to think, yeah, the 60s, people say, oh, you're such a hippie, because I had my
Mhm.
long hair and everything. And yeah, we wanted love. But it's
Yeah.
interesting because I've since seen in myself, and it's
Yeah.
funny, isn't it? People talk about spiritual bypassing, and there's a lot of, I see a lot that and I
Mhm.
guess you could say I'm doing it right. People obviously have a realization and go, oh my God, everyone's spiritual bypassing, because suddenly we've fallen out of the, yay, I've had this spiritual awakening, I'm really happy. Oh, now I'm in my shit. And the ones that are still in their happy are like, don't be in your shit. Oh no, but I'm really unhappy. No, don't be like that. Be happy. And I was that person for a long time, like, yeah, oh my God, I'm so happy. I know God. I'm with God. God's with me. But bit by bit, it's like, yeah, being on earth, it really can slight you down. You get tempted, you get faced with all your, you have like harder and harder initiations, you can say. So, it's what are you going to say? I can look back and just be
Wow.
like, and we have to do it. That's how we learn. And it's also, I love it, coming to mind is that in the Course in Miracles, like staying in guilt for something is pointless because that's like
Mhm.
shame, and I've done that. But it's the remorse is the bit of going, shit, I did a thing and now I feel bad about it. And that's the sting of her. Okay, I got to sit with that discomfort. So yeah, I've had a little bit of that the last few years, I've got to say. And it makes it easier to be able to talk about it in a bit of a different perspective and not just be in the mud. So yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
it's my pleasure, Kevin. So I
Yeah.
guess that's a good place to maybe wind up for today, and say we'll meet
Yeah.
meet again. Yeah, I
And may
hope.
I, yeah.
Go on, sorry,
May
you
I
go.
say something else? Again, you mentioned something that was huge, right? And that's how I feel about my journey, right, over the years, with my mental health and struggles, not feeling like I fit in into any community, even
Mm,
faith, and
mm,
uh, that rite of passage, right?
mm,
Initiation. Like your next book should be about these challenges, being just rites of passages,
mm,
initiations, so that you can grow to the spiritual leader that you are and embody that and own it the way you do. Like I've never, when you mentioned, like when I saw you so openly talk about, your experience being section, I'm like, oh wow, look at the courage this woman has, right? Because I personally, if that had happened to me, I would be so ashamed, even as a man, like
mm,
as to how people perceive me. But it
mm.
is truly, to draw on Joseph Campbell's work,
The hero.
journeys, the journey of a hero, right? You
Of course.
ascended, but you can ascend, Ascension TV, right, without going to the depth of darkness. And
Mm, mm,
good for you diving in deep like that, so
mm.
that you could share now and guide others. And this
Yeah.
is truly, I feel privileged to have these conversations with you. I feel privileged that you're holding space not only for my healing and your healing, but
Yeah.
all others, because what you're modeling, Caroline, um and children learn by modeling. We
It's
have
true.
record
It's
number of children that are autistic in the States right now. It's a crisis. The government has correlated it directly to the diet, lifestyles, right? and we can be that voice, that guiding voice for this next generation that's struggling
Yes.
at home, like Gen Z. A lot of 12% of elementary school children in United States are identifying as non-binary currently. And to me,
Wow.
they are, and even experts are saying that's way too high. But to me, these are higher vibration beings that have reincarnated here to break this
Yeah. The
sexualization
division,
of,
the division
yeah,
of the
this
sexes.
division of,
Yeah.
right. And you see how, there was this huge movement because like my gay friends, for instance, would say, hey, don't group us with all the other minorities like the trans, this or that. Why are we being like categorized and boxed? We're humans too, you
Mm,
know?
mm, mm.
And so you see criticism even from the LGBT community because, we brought politics into people's sexuality. We
Yeah.
brought
Nice.
politics into the sanctity of marriage and raising children. And it is time that we take a stance. And that's why these conversations are so important. And I'm so happy, but also privileged and humbled to be
Mm.
here and have these conversations. And to me, not everything is money,
No,
and
no,
and
exactly.
as the millennial, we are here to break those barriers.
Sure, we sure are. Thank you, Kevin. I'm so grateful as well because I know I can get stuck if I have a trigger, sometimes I can be really like low because it's this part of something's integrating or an energy's coming through and it's not always easy to hold space for yourself. And then when you are spoken with and acknowledged and seen and respected just inherently, no matter what's coming up, it's such a healing balm. And it's funny you say about the being section because some people, so like sometimes I'll feel like there's a flashback moving through and then I'll say it and some people are like, oh, you don't really need to say about that again, or hadn't you already forgotten that or something. Obviously they haven't done any therapy of their own selves, so they wouldn't have said it. But I there's a way of sharing that is just in passing. That's the neutrality we get to when we've done the work and we're just like, oh yeah, I did a thing. Okay, whatever. That's part of my story. And yeah, it's just interesting because there are times when I can share where it's just like, yeah, it's a matter of fact thing. It's just like it's the thing. And then but you can't always tell your triggers. So again, if you're watching and any of this has triggered
Yeah,
you, I'm really sorry. Make sure you've got someone you can talk to, or make a prayer, go talk to a tree, talk to a river, call on your angels, because it is tough until you've integrated that part, and then it's not. It's like anything, isn't it? Like learning something.
yeah,
It's hard until you've learned it, and then it's not. And we're all cycling through so many challenges, issues, themes that it's all coming to the head so that we can all learn it, let it go, and we're going to come to harmony. I've definitely seen that. In fact, I had a vision a few years ago. It was amazing. It was like everyone's on the earth like stood in rows of people like between the towns and just like all over the earth. It was like, fuck, we did it. Fuck. Ooh, I can feel that. Can you imagine? Yeah. We
yeah.
got to hold
I
that,
feel-
that it's possible. We can all just be like, yeah, I fucked up and it's okay. Yay, I fucked up and it's okay. Oh, you fucked up. Yay, it's okay. That's how we need to get to with all the shadow stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Oh my God, you're a
exactly.
tosser. Yeah, me too. Remember that day? Oh
Yeah,
God. Ha ha. Yeah. Ha, ha.
yeah.
And it's gone. Oh, bring it on. Bring it on.
Amen. And there's a whole generation, the Gen Z. Like as children, I've had the privilege of seeing them grow up because
Mm,
I had two preschools and infant care, and they're just a different vibration being
mm,
that's here to really not conform to the old ways
yeah,
and
yeah,
honor both the masculine and the feminine in their own ways. And I think it's very interesting that they're starting by saying, hey, no to this like level of sexuality in
yeah.
society, you
Yeah,
know?
it's amazing. I can't wait to have a very specific conversation on that. I mean, I've half penned a book and planned a book about loving the skin you're in because of that, because it was
Yeah,
such a thing for me. But I also know it. like, for me, I get waves of this is the next thing, this is the next thing,
Yeah,
and it's not. I'm not quite there yet. I don't need to be the one
yeah.
waving that flag. Enough people are doing that, but I definitely
You
want to
already are
get it.
though. You
Get it
already are
out.
waving.
Well, I guess so. I guess so. But until I'm around people that bring that out of me, I am so, that there is still a part of me that's so used to just dumbing down and just not having that conversation that doesn't come out. And this is why, for me, this is very healing, because it's like, oh yeah, I tucked that bit away because like my family don't want to hear about it, or so and so, whatever. And that's fine. There's a time and a place, and this is what it is. So thank you, Kevin. Thank you for
Of
everyone
course.
that's joined us today. And if you like what we hear, sign up and subscribe and follow along as we carry on chatting about valid and interesting themes that we find. So thank you so much, and see you again soon, guys. God
Thank
bless.
you. Thank you.
Bye.